One of these upgrades can quietly push an F-150's engine toward a $7,000 repair bill. Another can destroy the front suspension way before 75,000 miles. And the third is a cheap little plastic item that promises massive horsepower, but does absolutely nothing except create problems and void your warranty. But there are 4 upgrades that actually do deliver. One adds years to an EcoBoost engine for the price of a burger. Another can prevent a $5,000 transmission rebuild, especially if you tow, haul, or drive hard. I've been working on Fords for over 14 years, and after seeing what these upgrades really do on the lift, trust me, there's a lot worth talking about. So before you spend money modifying your truck, watch this first. Here are the 3 worst F-150 upgrades most owners get wrong, and the 4 best upgrades that are actually worth every penny. Let's start with the worst 3. This is Vital Ford. Let's get into it. Worst number 3. Oiled performance air filters. Let me tell a quick story. Had a customer come in, 2018 F-150 with the 5.0, around 38,000 miles. Truck was running rough, throwing a lean code, getting worse fuel economy than stock. The owner was confused because the only thing changed was the air filter. Swapped to an oiled K&N style filter a few months back. Thought it would wake the engine up a little. Pulled the intake apart, and the mass airflow sensor was coated in a thin film of oil residue. That's what killed the tune. Here's how oiled performance filters work. The filter media is soaked in oil to help trap fine particles. The idea is that the oily surface catches more debris than a dry paper filter, and compared to a clogged stock filter, yeah, more airflow. That part is true. But on any modern F-150, the MAF sensor sits right downstream of that filter. Its job is to measure exactly how much air enters the engine, and the ECU uses that data to calculate the correct fuel trim. When oil vapor migrates off that filter and coats the sensor's hot wire, the readings go off. Sometimes lean, sometimes rich, and sometimes inconsistent enough to trigger a misfire. I see this come up constantly in Ford owner forums, guys chasing misfires and lean codes for weeks before someone finally asks, "What kind of air filter are you running?" The performance gains? Independent dyno tests on stock F-150s consistently show 1 to 3 horsepower at best from a drop-in filter. That's not a real-world difference, that's just noise. A quality oiled filter costs around $60 to $80, while a MAF sensor replacement costs $150 to $300 just for the part. And if the contamination causes an incorrect fuel trim long enough, it starts affecting injector duty cycle and catalyst efficiency. The right move is to run the factory Ford Performance Dry Filter, or a dry high-flow replacement from a reputable brands like AEM, AFE Power, and S&B filters. No oil, no sensor risk, and more than adequate airflow for anything short of a full forced induction build. Now, the worst upgrades don't always come in a bag of parts. Sometimes they come in a little cardboard box with foam padding and a promise that changes everything. And that's next. Worst number 2. Cheap spacer leveling kits. A customer came in with a 2017 F-150 XLT, crew cab, around 61,000 miles, clunking noise at low speed, vibration in the wheel on the highway. He'd been running a 1.5-inch spacer kit on the front for about 2 years. The alignment looked fine on paper, but when it went up on the lift, the inner CV boot had split, the outer boot was showing stress cracks, and the driver's side upper ball joint had play in it that should not have been there at 61,000 miles. The spacer kit cost him $80 on Amazon. The repair bill came out just under $1,800, and this is the #1 thing seen on used F-150s that should have been caught before the sale. Here's why it happens. The F-150's front suspension is built around a specific CV axle angle. The upper and lower control arms, the ball joints, and the CV shafts are all designed to operate within a tight tolerance range at factory ride height. When a cheap spacer stack gets thrown on and the front end gets pushed up, with no change to the control arm geometry, the CV axle has to work at a steeper angle than it was designed for. Every time the suspension cycles through a bump, that joint is working harder than it should. Cheap aluminum or steel spacers that push the front end up 1 to 2 inches, usually $40 to $120 on Amazon, are not an engineering solution. They are a shortcut that the suspension geometry never asked for. Ball joints on an F-150, when they need replacing, run $400 to $700 per side just in parts. A full CV axle shaft replacement is $300 to $500 per side. If both sides need it, that repair climbs toward $2,000 fast, and that's not including labor. If leveling is the goal, the right way to do it is covered in the best upgrades, because there is a correct engineered way to get that stance without destroying the front end. But if the spacer kit is number 2, the number 1 worst upgrade is something even more deceptive, because at least spacer kits actually do something to the truck. This next one does absolutely nothing except take the warranty with it. Worst number 1. Amazon Performance Chips. Pull up any Amazon search for F-150 Performance Chip, and there are dozens of listings, usually $20 to $60. Little plug-in modules that go into the OBD2 port under the dash. The listings promise 30 to 70 additional horsepower, better throttle response, improved fuel economy, and sometimes all 3 at once. But here's the truth. Every single one of those claims is false. Every single one. Here's why. A modern F-150, any generation with the EcoBoost, the Coyote 5.0, even the older 3.7, runs a fully closed-loop ECU. The engine management system communicates with dozens of sensors in real time. Fuel trims, ignition timing, boost pressure. All of it is constantly being adjusted based on live data. To actually change how the engine performs, the tune has to be flashed directly into the ECU's memory using professional software. Tools like HP tuners or SCT, Advantage 3 communicate directly with the ECU through the OBD2 port. Yes, but they do it with licensed Ford-compatible calibration software that actually reads and rewrites the engine tables. A $30 plug from Amazon does none of that. It literally cannot. Most of them contain a small resistor or a simple LED. Some don't even have functional circuitry beyond the resistor. The truck's ECU detects an unknown module, flags it, and continues running on its factory tune. Nothing changes. Tested a few of these in the shop just to see. No change in timing, no change in fuel trim. Ran back-to-back quarter-mile pulls on a local stretch. Zero measurable difference. One of them actually caused the truck to throw a code for an unrecognized device. And here's the part that actually matters. Plugging an uncertified third-party device into the OBD2 port and driving with it can void portions of the powertrain warranty. Ford's warranty. Terms are clear on aftermarket modifications that affect emissions and engine management. A dealer seeing that device plugged in during a warranty claim has grounds to push back. $30 to $60 spent on something that does absolutely nothing and potentially costs a $7,000 engine warranty claim. There is no shortcut to real power on a modern F-150. If a tune is the goal, work with a reputable Ford-specific tuner using legitimate software. That's the only version of this that's real. Best number 4. High-quality brake pads. This one doesn't get talked about enough in the truck community, and honestly, that surprises me every single time. F-150 owners spend money on lift kits, exhaust, cold air intakes, all of it focused on making the truck go faster or look tougher. And then they leave the factory brake pads on. The same pads that were calibrated for a stock truck at stock weight, with stock tires, doing stock driving. Put a leveling kit on. Add 35-inch tires. Load the bed with 1,500 pounds. Tow a trailer on the weekend. That factory brake system is now stopping significantly more rotating mass and total vehicle weight than it was ever designed for, and the pads are still the same ones that came off the assembly line. Think about what that actually means in an emergency stop situation. At 65 miles an hour, with a trailer behind it. Had a customer, 2019 F-150 Lariat, 3.5 EcoBoost, loaded with a truck camper. Came in complaining about a long pedal and soft braking feel. Brake fluid was fine, calipers were good, but the pads had glazed over from consistent high-load braking, worn past what the thickness should have been given the mileage, and generated enough heat that the rotors showed heat rings. Upgraded that truck to a quality semi-metallic compound. EBC yellow stuff or Hawk HPS 5.0 are what's recommended for anyone towing or running larger tires. The difference was immediate. shorter stops, no fade under load, and the rotors ran cooler. Quality upgraded brake pads cost $80 to $150 for a full axle set, but a brake job after rotor damage and glazed calipers runs about $600 to $900 minimum. Braking is not the place to save money. On a loaded truck that weighs over 5,000 pounds, it's the most critical safety system on the vehicle. Speaking of doing things the right way, remember the worst number 2? Cheap spacer leveling kits? Here's the correct version of that upgrade. Best number 3. Suspension upgrade with quality shocks. The F-150 owner community has had this debate for years: level the truck or leave it stock. The answer is not don't level the truck. The answer is level it correctly. Bilstein 5100 series shocks, and to a lesser extent Fox 2.0 Performance series, are specifically engineered to level the front end while maintaining proper suspension geometry. They do not use a spacer stacked on top of the factory strut. They replace the strut entirely, and they are built with the correct internal valving to handle the changed ride height without overworking the CV angles or accelerating ball joint wear. The 5100s are adjustable at the front. There's a collar that lets the ride height be set at 0, 0.85, or 1.75 inches of lift. That geometry is accounted for in the shock's design. The control arms move through the correct arc. The CV axle operates within its designed angle range, and the ball joints load the way they were supposed to. The ride quality comparison is not even close. Spacer kits make the truck harsher because the factory valving was tuned for stock height. Quality shocks recalibrate the damping for the new geometry. Highway driving gets smoother, and off-road capability actually improves. Bilstein 5100 front shocks for an F-150 cost about $200 to $350 per pair. For about $400 to $600 all in, the truck gets a real lift, a proper stance, and a suspension that's going to hold up to 150,000 miles without destroying ball joints and CV shafts along the way. This is the upgrade that pays for itself in parts not replaced. Next up is an upgrade that most F-150 owners have never heard of. But if towing or hauling is part of the routine, this one could save thousands. Best number 2. Aluminum transmission pan upgrade. Here's something Ford probably should have done at the factory, and they didn't. The 1OR8 10-speed automatic in the 2017 and newer F-150 is a very capable transmission. It shifts fast, handles high torque, and it covers a wide ratio spread that keeps the engine in its power band. But it runs hot, especially when towing. The factory transmission pan on these trucks is stamped steel. Shallow. Holds about 7 quarts of fluid total. That's not a lot of thermal mass when the transmission is cycling through gears under load on a hot day, pulling a loaded trailer up a grade. Here's what happens at high temperature over time. A TF fluid begins to oxidize. The friction modifier additives break down. The fluid turns dark and loses its ability to protect clutch packs and internal bushings. Most owners never see this because they never check it, and Ford lists the 1OR80 fluid as a lifetime fill in some documentation, which is one of the most misleading pieces of guidance Ford has ever put in an owner's manual. A billet aluminum deep transmission pan from B&M Derail, or AFE, adds roughly 2 to 3 quarts of additional fluid capacity and integrates cooling fins into the pan itself. More fluid volume means more thermal mass. More thermal mass means the fluid temperature peaks lower and comes back down faster. The fins radiate heat passively while driving. Some pans also include a drain plug, which makes future fluid services possible without dropping the pan and making a mess. A 2019 F-150 with the 3.5 EcoBoost came in after towing a boat about 200 miles. The original transmission pan and trans fluid that had never been changed at 74,000 miles came out looking like dark brown sludge. The transmission was already showing some shudder under light throttle from degraded fluid. Caught it before clutch damage, but barely. The aluminum pan cost around $150 to $200. A full 10R80 rebuild, if the clutch packs go, runs $3,500 to $5,500 depending on the labor market. Change the fluid on these transmissions every 30,000 to 45,000 miles if towing regularly, and put a quality aluminum pan on it. This is one of the best decisions a serious F-150 owner can make. Now the #1 best upgrade is smaller than most people expect, and it does something that can literally save an EcoBoost engine from a very slow and very expensive death. Best #1, baffled oil catch. Can most people who own an EcoBoost F-150 have never heard of this? And that's exactly why it's #1. Because here's what's happening inside that engine right now, and almost nobody is doing anything to stop it. The EcoBoost is a direct injected engine. Fuel is sprayed directly into the combustion chamber, not into the intake port. That matters because in a port-injected engine, fuel washing over the intake valves constantly cleans off any deposits. Direct injection doesn't do that. The intake valves see only air and oil vapor. Every gasoline engine has a PCV system, positive crankcase ventilation. It routes crankcase gases back into the intake to be burned rather than vented to the atmosphere. In a healthy engine, those gases carry a small amount of oil vapor. On the EcoBoost, that oil vapor passes over the intake valves and gets baked onto them over thousands of miles. It builds up into hard carbon deposits that restrict airflow, cause rough idle, and eventually require an expensive walnut blasting service to clean. I've seen 3.5 EcoBoosts at 70,000 to 80,000 miles, with carbon buildup thick enough to close off 30 to 40% of the intake valve opening. The truck runs rough, fuel economy drops, power falls off, and the owners assume it's a spark plug or a fuel injector issue, because nobody ever told them about the valves. A baffled oil catch can from Mishimoto, catch can kit by Rugged Ridge, or similar quality brands, mounts in line with the PCV system. The baffled design creates turbulence inside the can that forces oil vapor to condense and collect in a reservoir before it ever reaches the intake. The clean air continues through. The oil stays in the can and gets drained periodically. Installation takes just about 45 minutes. The can itself costs $60 to $150 for a quality baffled unit. But a walnut blasting service to clean carbon-fouled EcoBoost intake valves? That's $400 to $700 depending on the shop. And if buildup goes unaddressed long enough, the valve deposits can cause detonation events that damage pistons. The catch doesn't add power, it preserves the power that's already there. For an EcoBoost F-150, it is hands down the highest value longevity upgrade available. So there it is, the 3 upgrades that are quietly hurting trucks out there right now, and the 4 that are actually worth the money. I've been doing this for 14 years. These upgrades come across the lift every single week. The wrong ones end up costing people thousands, but the right ones keep trucks on the road and out of the shop. If you found this helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more real talk on keeping the F-150 running right. Which of these upgrades are you already running, and which one are you thinking about trying first? Let me know in the comments below. And while you're at it, tell me what you want the next video to cover. Whatever has been on your mind, drop it in the comments and I'll build the next video around it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.